What's up, everybody? This is all the low-rated duelists. I'm Noah, here with my friends Christian and Will,
Hey.
and we're here to talk about some very important shit. Basically, it's all shit.
Yeah, this is not a drill.
Yeah. So some shit went down yesterday because it's now 1:32 a.m. And we're making this video about the new summoning mechanic called link summoning. I have the YG organization article pulled up here. We're going to kind of skim over this and kind of just read everything, all the points, and go over it. We're already fully aware how this works, and we've already discussed it in detail. And so we think we're kind of prepared to talk about it, I guess, in a general discussion. But this is crazy, man. This is like the biggest news pretty much ever in Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm pretty sure this is the biggest thing to ever happen. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so link summoning. There are new monsters called Link monsters, and they have an example here. The first one to be released, Decode Talker. Decode Talker, Dark Cyber's type, which I guess is now a new type as well. Link Effect monster. It's a Link 3, attack 2300. Notice it does not have a defense, and we'll get into that in a second. Materials. I think it says 2 here, but further down the article it actually says 3. So I think this is actually a typo. I think it's actually supposed to say 3 or more effect monsters. It has 2 effects. 1, this card gains 500 attack for each monster linked to it. 2, when an opponent's card effect that targets a card you control is activated, you contribute one of your monsters linked to this card, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy it. For those of you who are not familiar with the way link summoning works, at this point you're probably like, what the fuck is he talking about? So, where do I even begin, guys, honestly, because there's so much to talk about.
Talk about the cost, like, for how to get a monster out in the first place.
Okay. So there are basically two ways of link summoning. You can send materials to the grave equal to the link number. So, example, Decode Talker is a link 3. So you have to send 3 or more effect monsters to the grave to special summon it. And very, very similar to the way that you would perform a synchro summon. The other way to do it is you can use link monsters that are already on the field. Like, say you had a link 2 monster on the board already, and you wanted to special summon Decode Talker. You would use that one link 2 monster as that counts as 2 of the materials, and then 1 effect monster. So that way you're only using 2 materials instead of 3. So at that point, it becomes a little bit easier to link summon if you already have a link monster on board. So that's how you do it, but we still have not answered the question of what is link summoning and why is it important. So let me bring up the picture of the new field, basically. So Konami has added these 2. I'm pointing at them with my cursor if you can see that. These 2 new monster zones. They are monster zones. They're called the extra monster zones. When the duel begins, neither player has control of either one of these zones. So the first time you would special summon a monster from the extra deck, well, first of all, they've changed the rules now to where extra deck monsters can only be summoned into one of these extra monster zones. The 5 normal monster zones that we've had since forever, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck into those zones. So you're kind of like, well, if that's the case, then why even have an extra deck? That's where link monsters come in, because let me bring up the picture of Decode Talker again. If you'll notice these 3 red arrows on the card itself, they point actually to other monster zones. So basically, say you have the 3 monsters on the field that you need to special summon this guy. You special summon him, he goes to the your 1 extra monster zone. By the way, once you choose an extra monster zone to special summon something in, the other one automatically belongs to your opponent. So you can't control both of them. You can only control one.
Talk about broken.
Yeah, like have both of them.
Just can't play.
Your opponent just can't play. Yeah. Anyways, so these three red arrows, like say you have this on your field. These arrows will point to other monster zones. As you can see, there's one that's lit up at the top. That one points actually to one of your opponent's monster zones. And then there's one in the bottom left corner and the bottom right corner that point to 2 of your own monster zones. What that means is, once this card is out, those monster zones that are being pointed to by those arrows are now available for use to bring out something else from the extra deck. So link summoning is going to obviously drastically slow the game down, because you can no longer flood your field with, shit out your entire extra deck in one turn.
And quick side note, once, like he said, those spaces are available for use, and that also links that monster to your link monster. So
correct.
Much in the same way that XYZ monsters require you to detach materials to activate, you, like in Decode Talker's effect, that you'll see, you have to detach monsters that are linked to him. So
Right. Let me
those
let me,
guys
let me
in-
actually bring up his effect again.
yeah, so that's what that is.
His second effect, when an opponent's card effect that targets a card you control is activated, you contribute one of your monsters linked to this card, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy it. So say your opponent tries to Castel or something like that, Castel a card in your field, you can detach one of your monsters that's linked to Decode Talker in one of those 2 zones that he frees up for you, and negate that activation and destroy it. So that's how that works.
No, I mean, but like it's an extra deck monster. Like, why would you want to tribute an extra deck monster to like prevent that? You know what I mean?
Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be an extra deck monster. It just can be. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It would be.
It doesn't have to be. You could put a regular monster from your main deck.
You
in
could
there.
put other monsters in those zones.
Yeah, it's not for extra deck only. It's just you can use extra deck there.
So okay, I like that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Quick, real quick before I forget, Noah, can you bring up the picture of the field?
Yeah. Okay, it's up.
If you look in the top left, if we're looking at the same one, it looks like it says starter deck. So I wonder if there's going to be a new starter deck featuring Decode Talker as like the main monster, you know? So like there will be like a deck that introduces Link monsters and makes like, you know, with support for them. Do you see that up there?
Yes, I see it, and you're correct. There's actually another article on YG Organization. It's been confirmed these cards are coming out in a starter deck.
Oh, really? Okay, cool. I didn't know that.
Which I think is pretty cool because that gives everybody like pretty much immediate access to the mechanic to kind of like familiarize themselves with it. You know, just devise some combos, things like that.
Okay, what's next?
Okay, so we went over how to link summon. We went over what it does and why it's important. Pay attention to the direction of the link markers. The zones pointed to by each link marker and the cards in them will be affected by the link monster, and this will create new strategies. We kind of went over that too. Okay, big thing here. Link monsters do not have, like I was saying at the beginning of the video, they do not have a defense. They cannot change their battle position. They can only be in face-up attack position. And they cannot they cannot switch to defense. They can't be face down in defense. So that means you can't Book of Moon them. You can't what's the Quaking Mirror Force? You can't do any of that. So there's that. They do obviously have an attack value, so they can attack. They do have effects, so they can use effects. It's not like they're just like sandbags and they don't do anything besides free up your monster zones. They will be semi-useful on their own, it looks like. So
this is huge, man. This changes the game so much.
It really does, man. I can't
like
believe
as
it,
you're
honestly.
saying it, I'm just like my brain is trying to process what a big deal this is.
Right.
Go ahead and keep going though.
Okay. The newly created extra monster zone. You can only use one of them. I went over that before. Obviously, you can't control both of them because that wouldn't be fair. Let's see what else.
I think the pendulum stuff is all that's left. Yeah.
Yeah. Here's a quick thing about pendulums. The pendulum mechanic's been changed, in my opinion, for the better. So basically, there are no such thing as, let me bring up the field again. If you look right here and right here, the pendulum zones are now the left and rightmost spell trap zones. So the pendulum zones aren't like separate entities anymore. So obviously, if you want to set up scales, you're actually using 2 of your available spell trap zones as well. So at that point, you can only set 3 back row. And on top of that, one way that they're actually going to be balancing the pendulum mechanic is, like we talked about, you can't special summon monsters from the extra deck unless you have link monsters on the field. So what that means is you can pendulum summon from your hand all day long as many times as you want to, but you can't overlay those monsters. And also, once they go back to the extra deck face up, you can't pendulum summon them back from the extra deck unless you control link monsters. And so that's really huge for pendulum because I feel like that really balances it out for the better.
Absolutely. They needed something to kind of put them in check.
Sure.
Strike's not enough.
Will, thoughts?
On the pendulum thing?
Yeah.
Will's got some thoughts.
I know Will has he feels some type of way about pendulums.
I like the thought. I like the link something for the pendulums because, you and I have always kind of talked about it, how it's kind of unfair that like pendulums are basically, because pendulums and they're mechanically are the best deck. Not necessarily the best deck, but mechanically the best deck.
They have a clear advantage, absolutely.
Simply because, they can synchro summon, it goes back to their extra deck, and they can bring it back the next turn, or they can get destroyed, it comes back for the next turn. And like
anything, they can overlay them, they can do whatever they want.
before, like cards like Sky Iris and like Meadowfoe Scales, like they're so-called card neutral, quote quote, because you're blowing one up to get another one from your deck or search another one. But like if you really think about it, you're blowing it up, but it goes back to your extra deck to be Pendulum Summon. So it's not really card neutral. It's plussing, honestly. So the fact that they have to be smarter about blowing their own cards up, like blowing up their Scales with Pendulum Sorcerer or something like that, and knowing that it can't be Pendulum Summon back unless they control a Link Monster, I do like that because it it was always frustrating to like board wipe a Pendulum player's board or Twin Twister their Scales and then it be brought back. Like that was the most frustrating thing about playing against Pendulums. But so I do like the whole Link summoning thing in terms of keeping them in check. As far as the spell and trap zone thing, I don't think that's going to have a huge consequence because they weren't running that much back row anyway. But I mean, you never know because this whole Link summoning thing might change the entire dynamics of decks. Like
absolutely,
because people aren't running back row because their monsters do their stuff for them. But if they can't get out 5, extra deck monsters on first turn, they might have to start running back row. So it might have
That's true. I didn't think about that. If you're not setting up unbreakable boards, you might have to resort to running back row
to protect yourself to where you have a next turn to be able to do that, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So it might change deck dynamics enough to where that spell and trap zone thing might have an impact. But I like the change in terms of pendulums. Yes.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with both of you. I think that's a very welcome change for the pendulum mechanic. We only have a couple more things to go over here, and then we can get into kind of like a more general discussion about Link summoning and our thoughts in general on the new mechanic. So basically, the only things left here in the article, although extra deck monsters can only be summoned to the extra monster zone normally, if you have a Link monster in the extra monster zone, the zone's pointed out, blah, 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 we've already been over that. The point is, the zones that are opened up by your initial Link monster, you can also bring out, obviously, another Link monster into one of those zones that has, like let me go back to the top. So Decode Talker has the bottom left corner and the bottom right corner. Those are the zones that he opens up, right? Well, say you want to bring out a monster into that bottom left corner that he's just opened up. You bring out another a Link monster that has the left and right arrows. So then now you have basically like three more spaces opened up. Like you'll have three available spaces at that point that you can now special summon extra deck monsters into. So obviously the metagame in the future, once this is released, is going to be completely dependent on who's more careful and more strategic with their Link summons.
Food for thought. I wonder whether or not. So say you have a Link monster in your extra monster zone, and then you summon another Link monster linked to him, as you said, that has side arrows, right?
Sure.
If you link like a regular main deck monster to those side arrows, do you think is it considered linked to the monster in the extra monster zone? Like it's one big link, so that like you can choose to detach them to activate the first monster's effects. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see what you're saying, and that is actually really interesting. I actually have not seen anyone that's brought that point up yet, so that's good for you.
I wonder if so if they're only linked to the monster they're directly linked to, or if it's one like kind of chain, right?
I think not
to use a Yu-Gi-Oh term, but
sorry, I think the idea is they have to be directly linked to that, but that's not confirmed or denied, so I don't know. That'd be interesting to find that out for sure in the near future,
Yeah, it's kind of like adding more materials to an XYZ monster.
I think that's a cool idea, like being able having setting up an entire chain link to where basically if you are able to set up your field to where everything is linked to each other, you can activate Link monsters effects using any monster on the field,
Yeah, that would be kind of, I don't know if it'd be like, I want to say it would be cool, but I don't know if it would be broken depending on the effects these monsters end up having.
Right.
We really don't know until the monsters come out and we see what they can actually and what effects they choose.
There's only been 3 or 4 released so far. So are confirmed.
And they all have different conditions too, just to mention briefly. Like I don't know what the monster's name is, but I know there's been one monster at least announced that its only requirement is one normal monster, just
right.
The Link summon it.
Yes.
So
Blue Eyes.
The
Blue Eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can still run Blue Eyes.
Yeah.
But yet,
what am I supposed to synchro with?
Yeah, you can't do it. So is that all the talking points we had to cover? at first?
I can go. I can just. You want me to go over there's like a Q&A at the end. You want me to like kind of quickly go over the things we didn't talk about?
Yeah, if anything's interesting.
Okay. Kind of like a little interesting side note here. It says that if I special summon an extra deck monster normally and it goes to the graveyard and I want to special summon it back with Monster Reborn, which zone does it go to? They're asking basically if you special summon Stardust Dragon into your extra monster zone and it dies, and you want to revive it with Call of the Haunted or like Monster Reborn, they want to know, does it go back in the extra monster zone or does it go to the normal monster zone? And the answer is it actually goes into the main monster zone, not the extra monster zone. So what I'm basically picking up on is only monsters that were special summoned from the actual extra deck will go into the extra monster zone.
Yeah.
So I mean, just kind of food for thought there.
That's an interesting side note. Yeah, you have to get them out first with the extra monster zone and or a link monster, but after that, they're kind of like back to their normal selves. Which sometimes extra deck monsters are hard to get back, but
sure,
you can.
Yeah,
if they get returned to the hand, who knows what? If they return the monster rid of your link monster, you can be totally screwed. But it'll be cool. I'm really excited for this. I think this is like there's going to be, just imagine when these cards hit. There's going to be so many nights of rigorous deck building, and we haven't had that in such a long time.
Is that I did that with these decks that I already made, and I have to reconstruct them. It's not.
Personally, I enjoy building decks, especially if there's like something new and exciting to be like to get
right now
like, hyped about.
Like the thing I don't like now is right now I'm in limbo. Like I have no desire to make decks right now because it's all going to change in about a couple of months. So
I know what you mean. I was testing the Dino deck today, and I was like, "Oh, should I even be doing this? Because it's going to change in a few months."
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be cool. I just want this mechanic to be. I wish I could like fast forward through time because I already want to do this. I think it's awesome.
I'm hoping like YGO Pro, or I'm hoping that they will like at least like put like a beta testing of like actual link summoning mechanic like before it actually comes out.
These poor programmers, dude.
OCG in a month, I think.
Say what?
They will for OCG because I think this gets incorporated into OCG in about a month.
Yeah, I think it comes out like April, I believe, or March or something like that. I don't know. But
that's cool. Is this it starts with Code of the Duelist, right?
Right, that's correct.
And the starter decks.
Yeah.
It's gonna be so much fun. Oh, dude, I'm just looking at Decode Talker and I'm like, this is so cool.
I'm looking forward to it. I know Will's like pretty like not excited because it kind of like fucks his decks up.
Well, no, like the thing is, and I hate to be this guy that says that because I feel like everybody says, you just gotta adapt, dude. You gotta adapt to the play style of the time. But like, that's what people are gonna do. Even you, Will. Will, you might be the best deck builder I know, honestly. Like some of the stuff you've been able to do is like insane. So to me, you're gonna have no problem adapting to this. You're gonna change your combos, you're gonna change your build, and it might not play exactly the same, but it'll still be good if you can, think of the best way to use these link monsters and get your guys on the field. I think it's gonna be cool to see what people do with it.
And you also, on top of that, you have to consider the fact that although it may be hindering you, it's hindering everybody else as well. So it's like,
right,
the deck's still going to stand a chance.
Really? Can I get into that?
Okay.
Well, clearly some decks like Domain Monarchs are not going to deal with the same issues,
Mermail, Lightsworn,
Cosmo.
Infernoid. None of them.
Cosmo.
Okay, let me just get into can I just go ahead and get into why I don't agree with things and stuff like that? Go ahead. Yeah. Yes.
Sure.
Yes. Okay. So I'm not a big fan of this. I'm not a big fan of the link summoning mechanic, simply because I actually like the game as it is right now. Now, yeah, that might be like something like, oh yeah, you're in your ways, stuck in your ways, blah blah blah. But they're not asking me to learn they are asking me to learn new stuff, but they're asking me to learn stuff that's going to slow it down, not speed it up. And I like the speed of the game right now. I like that you have the ability to special summon a crap ton of monsters from your deck.
How can you like that a duel can end in one turn?
That's exactly
It's intricate, and it's
the first turn, not just one turn. The first turn.
Well, no, FTKs. That's like Exodia.
I'm not talking about FTKs. I'm talking about setting up an unbreakable board so that by the time turn 3 comes around, you just finish it off because they couldn't do anything.
It doesn't happen too often. Two, you got to have a really good opening hand to do that. But I understand the point you're coming from. It's that I like fast, intricate combo-based decks. That, and
I'm telling you, you'll probably still be able to do it. It's just going to be different.
Well, the thing is like with link summoning, the reason why I have a problem with link summoning is that it literally shits on every other mechanic. Like like I was saying, when synchros first came out, it was no big deal because like you didn't have to run synchros. You know, like you could choose whether you wanted to or not. When Xyz first came out, you didn't have to run Xyz. When pendulums first came out, you didn't have to run pendulums. This makes it to where if you run an extra deck period and you utilize that extra deck, you have to use this. And on top of that, you have to allocate maybe 2 to 3. We don't even know how many slots we're gonna have for extra deck.
That's true. We didn't mention that link monsters go in the extra deck.
Yes, they do. Absolutely, they do. And
I think they'll make it bigger. They have to.
They kind of have to because 15 monsters in the extra deck, like including link monsters, like you're
tight.
Like space is already tight as it is, you know.
Yeah. Tight as a virgin, like right there. Like, and like basically, I'm already kind of pissed. I'm having to allocate like sources to these things, but on top of that, the ones that we've talked about so far, like 3 monsters to summon this guy that really doesn't have any inherent protection and stuff like that. Yeah. Like, come on, like. If I have to attribute 3 monsters to this for this guy to even summon this dude, how am I going to even get out an extra deck monster in the same turn? Like, it's going to be very difficult to do. Now, like I'm saying, like this might change deck dynamics up to where, yeah, your first turn is going to be allocated to getting that link monster out, and then you maybe set Bracro and then try to go from there. But when you think about, like, I don't think it's going to really help in terms of leveling the playing field, as you guys mentioned. Like, yeah, it's going to slow down some meta decks like it's going to really slow down DDD. Zodiacs to an extent and stuff like that. But think about decks like Fluffles. They literally can't do anything without their extra deck. Think about decks like Raid Raptors and like other rogue decks that are also heavily, they get worse with this integration of this stuff. Now, yeah, it's early. We don't know what to think about, like what to say about that. But realistically, you can be like, okay, well, you guys are going to have to adapt and integrate back row in your deck. You can't really integrate back row into like Raid Raptors and Fluffles and expect them to be able to actually be able to play, because the only reason they're like functioning right now is because they can't run back row because they run engine-based cards. If you make them take those engine-based cards out because they can only summon 1 extra deck monster per turn or link summon, they kind of become unplayable. Now, yeah, we don't know where this is going so far, but like decks like those are shafted. And yeah, it does hurt the meta decks and like that. And then like that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not going to necessarily balance things out. It's going to make bad decks worse in some instances. And yeah, it's going to nerf some of the like pendulum decks and like Zodiacs and stuff like that. And it's going to cause a shift toward, decks that don't have to, integrate the mechanic at all, like Cosmo or Monarchs or Lightsworn or something like that. They're going to get instantly better because they don't even have to worry about a link monster because they don't use their extra deck. So I don't necessarily like the turn it's taking in that regard. And like I said, like why do they feel like they need to restrict the game? Now, yeah, I feel like you guys have said like you can win on your first turn pretty much by going first, but like I honestly like that game. I like the fast-paced, combo-oriented, tempo-based game where you can summon a mass board with legs. I've liked that. I don't like, just like slow games where it takes like 10 turns. It was determined by who had the stronger monster. Like that's just like caveman dueling. That's why I've always hated playing anti-meta or playing slow decks because it's just not fun. Like I am actually enjoy the game as it is right now. And I think that link summoning is going to slow it down. And I just don't like the idea of slowing the game down, like at all. That's just my opinion. That's on that.
Well, I see all your points, and you bring up good points and everything. But I feel like a lot of people, myself and Christian included, just disagree with that because, like, I don't enjoy going out and spending hundreds of dollars on a deck just to lose in one turn because I didn't go first.
Like, what are Fluffles gonna do? What are they gonna do?
Well, I mean, we don't know. I mean, yes,
like Quasar. You can't even fucking summon a Quasar anymore without summoning a Link monster first.
Well, okay, yes,
you're
right.
acting under the assumption that Link summoning is going to be really hard to do. Like
it sounds like it. Like 3 monsters.
Well, that's
like
one of them, Like for all we know,
sometimes I can only summon 2 in one turn and synchro with them.
For all we know, it's going to be not that hard to get out a Link monster, and then you can just do your spammy, vomity, floodgate monsters with legs.
Yeah, that's what I like.
Okay, one huge important thing that I want to bring up, related to what you just said. Will is operating under the assumption that link summoning is going to be hard to do. We haven't even considered the fact that now that the extra deck is severely restricted, they may release new cards that will help with link summoning that may have been considered absurdly broken
Yeah,
had link summoning not been a thing. Like,
but no,
they might
like think of this. Like they're gonna, like you said, it's coming out in a structure deck or something like that, and starter deck, meaning they're going to be generic. That means you have to allocate these things into your main deck. Take away engine-based cards, literally, to bring this thing out faster.
Well, yeah, but you're missing the point though, because engines now don't really mean anything like that's not going to be the point of the game anymore.
What? What do you mean? What do you mean? Engines don't mean. So
like,
basically, the thing is just to bring out one like thing to where I can't even bring out my.
Okay. Engines will still be a thing, but your engine is going to have to be focused on bringing out link monsters. It's not going to be focused on bringing out your normal shit anymore.
Is the new
shift into the decks that are going to be better are decks that don't even have to integrate this into their decks.
Well, not necessarily. Like you're again, you're assuming things. Like we don't know yet. You know.
Say they never did this, right? They didn't announce link summoning. Where does the game go? Because really, all I've seen recently from Yu-Gi-Oh is with each set, there's a couple new synchros and a couple new XYZs that just get better and better and better, like Crystal Wing, you know? And then where do you go? Eventually, it's just going to be, you're going to have god tier synchro monsters that you bring out.
It doesn't fix that, though. It's still going to be dictated by dice roll. Who brings out their link monster first? Oh, I strike yours, you lose. Like, that's basically what it's still going to be, dice roll.
Then
if you talk about
what if a link summon...
People are like, oh my god, Zodiacs, DDD, so good. Yeah, they're good because they're like the current like game state. Yeah, you can spam out stuff from your extra deck. But then when you take that away, people are like, oh my god, Monarchs, Cosmos, so good because they don't have to use that shit. Like it's not fixing anything. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just causing a shift into the better decks are the ones that don't have to use it. Now,
okay,
yeah, if they make it better,
so maybe
and like easier to do, then yeah. But otherwise, right now, like I said, right now. It seems very costly, like such a neg to bring out these guys that have no inherent protection, and it's like you'd have to change up your deck, like D barrier and stuff, like might not even be a good card anymore because
you're gonna have to get used to like okay, yeah, sure, it seems like a neg right now because we're used to the game working the way that it does right now.
Right.
When in the future, like sacrificing 3 monsters for a link monster might be like
that's like a god card
not
summon.
a neg, you know. Like we're operating under our current like mindset, and it's going to be completely different.
Like the entire concept of card economy might be different with this. I mean, this is such a big, crazy change that like, who knows what? Like it's kind of like the fucking Wild West, dude. Like we don't know what's going to happen, and until these cards really come out, like, and we can really see how it's going to work. So it's pure speculation at this point, to be honest with you. But I will admit I am hopeful. I'm on the side of it's a welcome change to the game because I don't see like Yu-Gi-Oh would probably go on for a couple more years, but without something like this, where do they run out of ideas for the next biggest, strongest monster?
For me, I don't really view it as a change. I view it as a shift. Like literally,
it's literally another word for change.
Well, yeah, but basically, well, no, like you're saying, it's going to fix things. All it's going to do is make the decks that don't have to use them better, unless
I mean, it doesn't fix anything. It just forces people to think.
People are going to be pissed off about Monarchs and Cosmo because, like I have to run these links, but they don't. Like,
well, I can't. Okay, I can't tell you how many times I've seen somebody post something on Zodiac or like somebody say something to me in real life, like oh man, like I quit Yu-Gi-Oh 3 years ago because I just couldn't keep up anymore, and like I feel like Konami's trying to fix that finally. Like they're trying to actually do something that's gonna like make it to where it's more fair for everybody. Like, yeah, it's gonna bring some decks down. It's gonna restrict other decks. Other decks are gonna have an inherent advantage because they don't use the extra deck. But overall, it's gonna make the game a more slow and enjoyable experience for everybody involved. You know what I'm saying?
If they make the links easier and like more like Christian was saying, like card efficiency and like stuff like that better, then I'll be more open to it. But right now, it sounds really costly. Now, yeah, it's early. I understand that. But right now,
Talker does sound costly. Yes. But like I said, there's some that have one monster requirements, right? So like
you get two slots, like big deal. Like,
but then you link something else to it.
I would rather just summon my one monster in that one special monster zone than like use 2 monsters on a piece of crap and then summon that gives me 2 zones that I can't use till next turn.
You summon your like Blue Eyes Spirit to your extra monster zone, and then
I will.
And then what? I wonder if you can swap out. Can you swap out into an Azure Eyes with a anymore?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, you can.
But like that's the thing. I liked being able to summon not only a Blue Eye Spirit, but also an Infinity and a number 38 on my first turn or something like that.
Well, you still can before you go to summon a Link monster.
Yeah, I got to summon a Link monster. Like that's what I'm saying. Like I'm not even a meta player, and I like that you're able to do that in today's game.
You're definitely the most meta, non-meta player I've ever met. By the way, thanks for pointing that
out.
Anyway, but
all right, yeah.
That's
so okay, so I think we've pretty well gotten our point across. This video's getting kind of long, so I think we should probably cut it out. So yeah, definitely huge news for the Yu-Gi-Oh community. This is probably the hugest thing again that we've ever experienced in the game. Personally, for me, for sure. I don't know about people who've been playing since like 2003 or whatever. But let us know what you feel like. Let us know your thoughts on the Link Summoning mechanic and how it's going to impact the game and what you guys think. Be sure to like the video, subscribe if you haven't already. And we appreciate you guys for watching, and we will see you in the next video.